I'm never sure what to do, and I'm never really sure what, in teaching a single experience of meditation, what might be useful. We have a basic meditation course that we offer through Metagroup, which is 90 hours long. So I don't imagine one period of sitting is going to be able to transmit that to you. And so what I thought we might consider doing is a basic introduction to ideal parent figure protocol meditation, which is one of the things that is so transformative if your interest is in affecting your attachment conditioning. Dan Brown cooked this up from Mahamudra meditation. So I'm going to guess that this is a tradition that's rooted more in the Theravada approach and mindfulness approach to meditation. And so the kind of visualization practice that is in the Tibetan lineage is going to be quite different. And then the other piece about this is that we're going to be talking, I'm going to guide you through this, and if you decide that it's too hot emotionally, you can just open your eyes and stop. And then I'm going to ask you to imagine an ideal mother figure for you when you were a small child and an ideal father figure for you when you were a small child. But some of us have such crap role modeling that we have a hard time imagining an ideal mother figure or an ideal father figure, or they behave so badly in relationship to us that it touching into it is too much. And so I also want you to just, if that's the case, imagine yourself as an ideal version that is going to be helpful to you as a child. Who better than you as an ideal version of yourself will know what you as a child needed in a particular moment. So I don't want you to get stuck on that, and I don't want you to touch into things that are painful. That isn't the point of this. In fact, I don't want you to touch into the bio parents at all. I want you to go completely imaginary, completely ideal in this. And then we're going to talk about the 5 stages of security, and just so that you know what they are when they come up in the meditation, is the first one is a sense of safety, so that you feel a deep sense of safety. The second one is that you can get the caregiver's attention and attune to them whenever you want to. So this is it, we're attuned, can you tell? We're attuned, can you tell? We're attuned, can you tell? And can all the rest of you tell that I'm not attuned to you when I'm attuned to someone else, right? I'm attuned to you. I'm attuned to you. We're very sensitive to this. We can probably tell 3 blocks away when somebody's attuning to us. You know, do you ever turn your head, who's staring at me? This is a fundamental skill. If you feel safe and you're willing to reveal yourself authentically, then you feel seen and known in the attunement, which is something that's important. The third thing is that somebody can emotionally regulate you. Do you pay attention to whether somebody emotionally regulates you or not? Can you tell? This is really important, because in order to explore well, you have to be able to rely on people to emotionally regulate you when you get so dysregulated you can't regulate yourself. One of the things about the addict community is that we really are solidly entrenched in regulating ourselves with no dependence on anyone else, period. And if that means an elaborate array, which most of us have, of process and substance addictions, then that's what we're going to do, rather than just pick up the phone and say, hello. when you really dive into the attachment conditioning, there are certain constellations of experiences that we had that tend to lead one into one direction or another, which you can decode if you wanted to pursue this. Emotional regulation is next. And then the fourth one is the expressed sense of delight, that you understand yourself as a delightful person, and that your expectation is that your presence will elicit delight in other people. And this is also something that we don't necessarily know very well. And then the fifth one is the capacity to explore, that we can move in the world, understand what's meaningful to us, and actually pursue the things that matter to us with the understanding that we'll be supported by the ideal parent figures. Is that making sense? All right. Let's just begin, and then you can tell me what happened afterwards. So go ahead and settle into the body, closing the eyes, scanning through the body, looking for any tension you might be holding, seeing if you can release it. Now bring your attention to the breath. See if you can fall into the natural rhythm of the rising and falling of the breath, opening your eyes on the in-breath, closing your eyes on the out-breath. And see if you can pick something neutral to look at when your eyes are open. Now begin to extend the out-breath. See if you can make each out-breath a little bit longer than the one before it, deeply relaxing the body-mind, continuing to open the eyes on the in-breath, close the eyes on the out-breath. At a certain point, if you feel natural, just to let the eyes stay closed. When that happens, just let them stay closed, turning your attention inward, continuing to elongate the out-breath. See if you can take the body-mind into deeper and deeper states of relaxation with each out-breath. Now let the breath return to normal. See if you can imagine yourself being lifted up and floating on a big, warm, fluffy cloud, totally weightless, completely relaxed. Now imagine that this cloud is transporting you to an especially safe place. And when you arrive in this especially safe place, really take it in. Now what I'd like you to do is imagine that you're a young child in this especially safe place. And let's go with the early autobiographical memory, so 4, 5, or 6, somewhere in that age range. Imagine that you're this young child. And what I'd like you to do now is see if you can imagine an ideal mother figure for you as a young child. You can use the ideal self for this, but I'm just going to give the instructions for the ideal mother figure. See if you can imagine an ideal mother figure perfectly suited to you as a young child. See if you can imagine her in some detail. Different than the family of origin. It's not based on your actual mother, not a correction for your actual mother, not based on anyone you've known. An entirely imaginary ideal mother figure, perfectly suited to your nature in every way. See if you can imagine her in some detail. Notice how she is with you, how she's very sensitively attuned to you, how she picks up on the subtlest changes in your moods and in your mind states, and how she consistently responds to you in exactly the right way, in exactly the way that you've always needed somebody to. Notice how she's able to express physical affection for you in just the right way. If you need her close, She's immediately available to you and will provide all of the physical affection that you need. But if you need space, she gives you all the space you need. She never hovers or controls or intrudes in any way. Now let that scene fade. Continuing to imagine that you're a young child in this especially safe place, what I'd like you to do now is see if you can imagine an ideal father figure for you as a young child, not based on your family of origin, not based on your actual father, not a correction for your actual father, not based on anyone you've known, an entirely imaginary ideal father figure, perfectly suited to your nature in every way. See if you can imagine him in some detail. Notice how he is with you, how he's very sensitively attuned to you, how he picks up on the subtlest changes in your moods and in your mind states, and how he consistently responds to you in exactly the right way, in exactly the way that you've always needed somebody to. Notice how he's able to express physical affection for you in just the right way. If you need him close, he's immediately available to you and will provide all of the physical affection that you need. But if you need space, he gives you all the space you need. He never hovers or controls or intrudes in any way. Now let that scene fade, and what I'd like you to do now is continue to imagine that you're a young child in this especially safe place. But now what I'd like you to do is see if you can imagine an ideal environment for you as a young child. So this could be based on the especially safe place, it could be based on the place you grew up in, some variation of that. some place entirely imaginary, but see if you can imagine an ideal environment for you as a young child to grow up in and to thrive. See if you can imagine it in some detail. Now what I'd like you to do is imagine that you're this young child, you're in this ideal environment, you're playing and exploring, and the ideal parent figures are there with you, supporting and encouraging you as you play, as you explore in the environment. Notice how the ideal parent figures are with each other, how they're very sensitively attuned to each other, how they're very collaborative in the way that they take care of each other, how there's an easy physical affection between them, but they never get so caught up in themselves that they lose track of you. If you need their attention, it's immediately available to you and you can have all that you want. When they look at you, you can see that for each one of them, you're the center of everything. When they look at you, you can see that for each one of them, you're the most important person. When they look at you, you can see how much each one of them loves you. And you can take that in. You can be loved. You can be important. You can be at the center. Notice how protective the ideal parent figures are of you. And because they're so protective, you feel a deep sense of safety in this ideal environment, which leads you to feel completely free to play, to explore in any way that you need to. Notice how easy it is to get the ideal parent figure's attention, how easy it is to attune to them, and because you feel so safe with them, how easy it is to express yourself authentically. And because you express yourself authentically, you feel seen by them, you feel known by them, you feel accepted by them. Notice how easy it is for the ideal parent figures to emotionally regulate you because you feel so safe with them, because you've expressed yourself authentically, because they really see you, they really know you, they know just what to do to help you emotionally regulate, which leads you to feel completely free to play, to explore in any way that you need to, because you know no matter what happens, you can always come rushing back to them and they'll know just what to do to help you. Notice that each time the ideal parent figures see you, they light up with a sense of delight in being with you. You don't have to do anything to earn it. It's not performative in any way. You don't have to take care of them. You don't have to idealize them. It's your beingness that they're responding to. And each time they see you, they light up with this sense of delight in being with you. And you can take that in. You can be somebody who's delightful. So now what I want you to do is imagine that you are this young child, you're in this ideal environment, the ideal parent figures are there with you, supporting and encouraging you. What I want you to do is play or to explore something that has real meaning to you. See if you can imagine what that would be. You're leading it, you're pursuing the thing that matters to you, and the ideal parent figures are supporting and encouraging you in just the way that you need. Now let the scene fade, finding your way out of there. I'll count from 5 to 1. When I reach 1, you'll be fully present, fully awake. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fully awake, settle in the experience. So how bad was that? I'm just going to leave it open for questions until 1 o'clock.
ordinary for one parent to be more difficult than the other?
It's so specific to your unique conditioning that there isn't really a pattern in that. What we're really trying to get at here is what you longed for when you were a child, not what you had. You might notice in the beginning the mind compares. I didn't have this, I didn't have that, I really wanted that. Sometimes it creates a sadness that even can evoke tears in the beginning because you think, I didn't have all of that. But we don't want to pay attention to what you had. We want to see if we can activate the imagination around what you longed for so that you can begin to imagine that you had it, so that when you make reality, it's based on actually having had it rather than on the anticipation of the same deficits that you had, if that makes sense. So then depending on how they went, it took me, I didn't have a good, I had a crap childhood. Try to use good in relationship of my childhood to my mind. My tongue is rejecting it. So I had trouble with both of them. It took me about 2.5 months to cook up an ideal mother figure, and even longer for the ideal father figure. And really what I used as the entryway for me was line drawings from 40s house and garden magazines, the ideal couple. That's what I use. Eventually using a little bit of watercolor. But not everybody's a visual thinker, so you don't have to have a visual of them. You have to have a felt sense of them. And so a lot of the experience of my ideal father is this tactile sense of the clothes. So if I imagine myself as a child being held, I'm really engaged in what the fabric feels like, stuff like that is. So you can really create it in a way that matches the way your imagination works. It doesn't have to be one way or another. And then a lot of people who have adverse childhoods imagine non-humans, trees or birds. We do hope that you'll get to a human at some point.
You had talked about these attachment styles, these sort of ingrained. I'm wondering, do these fall into particular categories, or is everybody's attachment style, is that like a fingerprint very unique to them? Or is there attachment styles that are kind of fit into certain sort of patterns that repeat of different individuals, different times?
It's organized or disorganized is how that tends to play out. And the nomenclature around attachment in popular culture is kind of a mix. So styles is one aspect, and that tends to come more from the social psychology side of things, and then strategies is a term that comes from the hardcore research side of things. And so the language isn't the same in both camps, and so to talk about it is to also get stuck in the semantics of it. But I think an easy way to think about it is organized and disorganized. In organized attachment, you tend to respond very predictably to events that cause the attachment system to activate, and in disorganized attachment, it's all over the place. So you might have the perception as a disorganized person, oh, sometimes I'm secure, sometimes I'm dismissing, sometimes I'm preoccupied, but actually that's just representing disorganization. Whereas organized attachment, if you're dismissing, you respond dismissingly. If you're preoccupied, you respond preoccupied. If you're secure, you respond secure. Now, the other thing is to begin to understand what those manifestations are actually like. And in the beginning, we tend to want to assign attachment meaning to a specific activity. But you could do any activity. Any attachment strategy could do the same activity, and that wouldn't be what defines the attachment response. the motivation for doing it is what would define the attachment response. So let's say you book a room in a hotel, and you get to the hotel and it's not there, and you get mad. And then they find another room and they give you another room which is comparable, and because they've resolved the problem, you're not mad anymore. That would be a secure response. But you're dismissing, not secure, and so they don't have the room for you, and you're outraged that they don't have the room for you, not because you don't have the room, because don't they know who you are? How dare they do this? And then you won't accept a comparable room. You have to have an upgrade, because if you don't have an upgrade, they don't know who you are, right? And so the motivation is that, not the room. The preoccupied person delights in some sense in the fact that there is no room, and they insist on inspecting all of the rooms, and they need to go through 10 choices because the engagement, the proximity, and the regulation from the proximity is actually what their motivation is. So that no room is acceptable because they haven't had the room. The disorganized person erupts in this explosive, violent anger and storms off without getting another room because they feel unseen. And that's really what matters to them. But if you looked at it, it's that there's no room and they got mad, right? So that's kind of how you look at how that plays out. That makes sense.
So in terms of maybe, exactly to your point, but I feel like there's a period where longing can become detrimental, but there's a period where it's really essential. I know for me, I'm trying to embrace the longing with action, but with people in my work or friends who are at different parts of their life, I want to hold space for that longing, but sometimes I feel compelled to say, it's time to now manifest in that longing a new reality, but I also don't, from the heart place, I don't want to push, but it's like, what do you feel is that time frame? Where does longing need to start to ferment seeds and ferment flowers and trees, and where does it start to just decay over time if it doesn't initiate? Because I feel like the initiation point's the awakening.
So in Buddhism, of course, each emotion is longing is an emotion, is neutral, and it's the relationship to it. Would you imagine secure people enjoy longing and think it's a positive emotion because it just means they're going to be connected to somebody who they love and who loves them, and it's going to be easy? But for insecure and disorganized people, longing has a whole different quality to it, mainly because it's never resolved. You never really connect, and so it never really provides that. So most dismissing people, when they experience longing, the emotion is sadness or shame is what they really experience because they don't think that they're going to be able to connect. Preoccupied people feel guilty or fearful about longing because they're never sure whether or not somebody's going to be available to them. And disorganized people experience longing as this horrible thing that drives them to relationships where they're hurt. And so really part of it is parsing out what it is. But longing as a positive experience means that you're lonely and you need to connect to somebody, and then you just connect. When we get into these frameworks where it has to be a specific person, which can easily happen in the disorganized side, in the insecure side, then we focus too much on one person. But actually longing is to connect, to engage in emotional regulation with somebody, and it can be anybody. It could be the person at the checkout counter. You know, it just really depends. And so part of this is the change of the orientation toward the experience of longing, which mentalized would be, I'm lonely and I need to connect to somebody who's available, and just keep going until you connect, and then it shuts off, and then you can carry on. That's what I would say. But you know, if you're neglected in childhood, you want to shut down longing hard because you're just suffering the whole time because there's no one to connect to. And so that's what you do. And then when it arises, you have this, oh, here's longing. I don't want this. But then the thing that propels you to connect to other people is longing. So if you shut down longing, there's nothing that really drives you to connect to anybody, and so you're alone. If that makes sense.
Can I add a question to that? Because I know for me, I find that in that connection is where I'm most overwhelmed.
Right.
Because it is so delicious and lovely and relating and connected, but my references are so, well, they're constantly being built. And I find that I've lived in a lot of other communities of different types, and I see these waves of connection, and then often after that connection wave is a lot of disconnection, chaos, heartbreak,
Right.
relapse, deep sadness, and then the wave comes back. And it's always this wave, and then it was tough because you make friendships, and then inevitably the wave comes and some don't make it. They get back into the ocean and they're gone. Or I'm the one who disappears, and then a few flow on to the next deeper connection. Is that like, how to sustain that connection is something like
It is a hard time now because of the nature of the substances that are available. And it's very unusual for any of us to not have lost people because of that. And it's just wrenchingly heartbreaking, all of that. The Buddhist, point of view is anicca, or impermanence. Everything is impermanent, and the suffering comes from the grasping of it. And this is admittedly hard to do, and I don't want to. You want to understand as you're going in that you're going to lose it. The defense against that is to restrict going in. I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to connect because I'm going to lose them. And I'm going to save myself the sorrow of losing them by not going in. Except you lose it and it's self-inflicted because you don't have the experience of it. There's no way to prevent the loss of it. The idea that you could construct a way of being in the world where there's no loss isn't realistic. It's just not the human condition, which is what we're trying to grasp and to embody. So you go in, eyes open, that you're going to lose it, and you do your very best to keep it, and then when the time comes and it's lost, you allow it to be lost. One of the things about the addict community is we're terrible at losing things. We really are. We have lost so much and we're so bad at it. So you want to get good at losing and really allow it. We want to suppress it and hold it away and pretend that it's not lost when it's lost, which keeps us banging our head against relationships that don't work. All of that stuff that we do. Let it be lost, and then go in again. Go in again. In Buddhism, there's no mourning. You just go right back in, right? And you're young, so the losses you've accumulated are not what they're going to be. Do not, and this is something that happens in our community quite a bit. The disappointment gathers. The unwillingness to grieve the losses gathers. And then somewhere in our mid-30s, we decide the way to deal with this is simply to stop engaging in the world, and we withdraw from the world. And what we don't notice in that process of withdrawing from the world is the despair that creeps up on us, the meaninglessness of life that creeps up on us. This is a hard thing, this human condition, even at the level of privilege that a lot of us have. This is a hard thing, this life. And if you're not out there engaged in gathering meaning, it becomes unbearable. But the idea that you can protect yourself from loss by withdrawing from the world is completely wrong. And it actually just creates despair, but it is also one of the central conduits to relapsing. Because you disconnect from everybody, and you disconnect from the activities that drive meaning, and you're alone, and then the loneliness of that is unbearable. And what do you do to kill pain? Which is not call somebody on the phone, right? It's engaging in process addictions usually in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they're not powerful enough to kill the depth of the pain. You've placated yourself into this extreme pain now, and then substances are all that's left. And then, have you figured out how painful it is to be strung out? You take this tender emotional place of pain and you add use of substances to it, and it just knocks you flat. Is that making sense? So it's this life of loss, which is what the human condition is. You just get good at it. That's what I would recommend. And understand you got to go back in. And if you develop these, we talk about these, I know that we're running over time and I will stop. How about in 2 minutes? In the beginning, you may have a hard time coming into a place where you think that people could love you. People could like you. People would want to be with you. But you probably can understand that you like other people. So go with that. Go with the people that you like. And you probably have, you might have a hard time thinking that somebody would want to take care of you, but you have the capacity to take care of people. So take care of someone in this benevolent way that we talk about in Buddhism. And in engaging in that activity, love somebody. You may think, I'm not lovable, nobody's going to love me, but you can, so love somebody. And, you know, around here, anybody noticing such an abundance of love that they don't want any more? So engaging in that activity, and then you can see what that is. What is it to be a good carer for somebody? But not in that codependent way where you are caring and there's no reciprocation, right? So coming into balance, paying attention. I'm giving and I can receive now. I'm giving and I can receive now, so that you can learn how to do it. Because we didn't have that training. The main bummer about all of this, of course, is that during the opportune windows of childhood when we were supposed to learn all of this stuff, nobody taught us to do it. It's not that we can't do it, it's that we never learned how really to do it. And so the big bummer is you have to learn how to do it now. It's so embarrassing. However, if you learn how to do it now, then you have it. And if you don't learn how to do it now because it's too embarrassing, then you won't have it. And more time will go by. And it is finite. It is a short, brutal life that we have. And on that cheery note, as my Aunt Nancy would say, thank you so much for having me.